breaking out over oil, over water. We have food scarcity. We have scarcity of all kinds. When climate change happens, there will be millions of ecological refugees. Right now in Africa, the daily task for people is just to find water, not to find a job, just to find some fucking water so you can survive. This is all going to escalate. And as climate change comes and wreaks havoc on this planet, runaway climate change, there are going to be struggles on this planet like we cannot even imagine. And one of the problems I have with pacifism is, who the fuck are we? Who the fuck are we to tell the future what to do? Right? It's one thing to say, you know, in England, be pacifistic. Right now, in these conditions, in the United States, we should fight nonviolent struggles. To tell the future, who are going to be around in 2050, when the population is 10 or 15 billion people, when meat consumption is doubled, when there is open chronic warfare breaking throughout the world, when Africa is fucking caked dirt, who are we? Who are we to tell people what type of struggle to use? How arrogant is that? So I don't want peace. I don't want peace. I want war. Because if I say I want peace, that means I'm content with the status quo. If there are people bringing war to us, we've got to bring the war back to them. And you can say, fine, nonviolent war. By the way, you don't have to be of my persuasion, use the analogy of war. Tom Reagan uses the analogy of war. He was one of the first people to do it. And he's a pacifist, of course. I use the analogy of war with non-pacifist implications. So I don't want peace. I want a war. If your family's threatened by war makers, what do you want, peace? You have to go to war. You have to fight that war before you can have peace. Ultimately, yes, I want peace. Right now, I want war. I want a counter war. I want a war of insurgency. I want a defensive war. Okay, there are different kinds of war. There's an offensive war, which is wrong. There's a defensive war, which is always right. There's an unjust war, which is wrong. There's a just war, which is right. There's a war of aggression and a war of defense. This is a war of aggression being led against the planet. We need a war of defense. So I don't want peace. I want war. I want a two-sided war. We fight this by any means necessary. Now, only corporations, cops, and pacifists could call my position pro-violence. Pro-violence. Let me tell you something. I am not pro-violence. There's an analogy here. The people who are in favor of women's reproductive rights are not pro-abortion. Like, let's have more abortions. God, let's kill some more fucking babies today. They're not pro-abortion. They're pro-choice. I am not pro-violence. I am pro-choice of tactics in this movement, which pacifism tries to limit. Pacifists try to limit our tactics, and I want to open them. I want choice. All right, so pacifists want to take everything off the table, you know? You can have everything here. Here's what you got. Nonviolent struggle. God damn it. All we got left from this table now, you know, we used to have nonviolent civil disobedience. We used to have that. That got taken off the table sometime. I don't know when. You? 1970, 1980, 1990, that got taken off the table. Now it's just vegan education. That's not going to cut it. That's too slow. It doesn't work. Many people can't be educated. The fucking ice caps will be gone by 2050. As I said before, the United Nations said we'll live in an unrecognizable planet. Yeah, we at least had civil disobedience on the table. Now that's taken off the table. Now what do we got? Vegan education. Fuck that. I'm sorry. That's not enough. Do vegan education. God, do it more. Do it in China. Do it in India. Do it in Brazil. Get off the college campuses. Do vegan education, damn it. Do it for real. But don't tell me that that's all we can do now. I understand the situation with the cops. We've got to be clever, okay? I want everything on the table that works. That works, that's intelligent, not stupid, not macho, not dumb. That works, that's effective, everything. Don't take anything off that table. If this is a planetary war coming down, the stakes could not be more ultimate than what they are. You're going to tell me that I need to tie my hands behind my back? I need to wear a straitjacket? Well, they are coming at us with guns telling me to tie my hands behind my back? I'm going into a fucking gladiator battle with a giant monster and a two-sharp sword, and you want to tie my ankles and tell me to go fight and go kick his ass? That doesn't work. So here's my method for those of you who think I'm pro-violence. I don't know where you get that idea. Where do people get that idea? I gotta try to gotta correct that misconception. No, seriously, I tried to show it. I'm not here to fetishize violence. I'm not pro-violence. I'm realistic about what needs to work, what works when. And so here's my methodology. I'll sum it up quickly. Number one, pragmatism. Pragmatism, what works? Don't tie yourself to a philosophy. Don't tie yourself to a dogma. Not any philosophy, not any dogma, not any figure, not any person, not Gandhi, not King, not anybody, not pacifism. Do not tie yourself to a philosophy or a dogma. It will limit your thinking. It will limit your actions. It will limit your effectiveness. Get rid of it. It can inform your thinking. Don't be attached to it, okay? Be flexible. Use what works. So pragmatism is the number one part of my methodology for tactics. The second aspect of my method for tactics is contextualism. Look at the context. Every context is different. And some contexts go in with those pamphlets. Do your vegan education. In other contexts, a protest will do the job. Don't do more than that. In other contexts, sabotage is what's needed. We need to go in and liberate these animals, so we're going to break into the laboratory. In other contexts, a conversation might do it. Imagine you're talking to a fur shop owner. You can first try, right? It's like just war theory. Violence is your last resort. You first try to have a conversation. You're not going to get very far in most cases, right? Hey, look, here's the reality of fur. You're selling fur. You're profiting. Will you stop this, please? Will you get the fuck out of my store, please? Okay, sure I will, but I'll come back tomorrow, and we'll come back with a demo and a protest. How do you like that? Now you start the demo and protest, and maybe you shut it down that way. Okay, that doesn't work. Then you throw a brick through the fucking window, and you see if that works, okay? Whatever works in a situation is what works. Now, I just spoke in Italy. This might shock some of you. I just spoke at the Green Hill Conference, the first conference that they had after the liberation of the Beagles in Green Hill. I was the principal speaker, and this is what I said. You probably think I went in and said, okay, now we got them. Let's get the fucking guns out and open fire. Let's get out in the streets. It's open warfare, right? No. You know what I told them? I said, look, you found something that works, and that's nonviolent open rescues. Stick to that tactic. Don't do sabotage. Don't destroy property. Don't even write with spray paint on a wall anywhere. You got the people right here, right? Like the guys in Austria. These guys led a very intelligent struggle. Okay? I like to hear these guys because, you know, these guys were smart. Okay, even to the point that some will disagree that they use animal welfare instead of animal rights. Right? These guys are smart. This is what I'm saying. Be smart. So I told the people in Italy, don't do sabotage. Certainly don't do violence. Don't do anything that could be perceived as violence. Get some more puppies out. Get them over the gate. Get them over the fence. You know, this iconic image that almost defines our time. These puppies being handed over the fence. Do more of that. Do what works. So pragmatism, contextualism, that situation in Italy, what's the context in Italy? Nonviolent struggle is what I'm advocating in Italy. I'm not advocating violence. I'm not advocating closed rescues. I'm not advocating the ALF. Open rescues in Italy right now is what works. Do that. Don't do anything else is what I said. Ask me for my advice. That's my advice. And pluralism. Finally, the third part of my method is pluralism. That means you use as many, flexible as you possibly can, use as many tactics as you possibly have, and you use those where they work. Right? So pragmatism, contextualism, pluralism, I think is the methodology we need for the tactics that we need if we had a chance of winning the war against the forces that truly are out to destroy, to devour, to dominate, to decimate this planet down to the last cell. Thank you. Okay, once again, nothing controversial, so I'm sure there are no questions.
Yeah, we have time for one question, but then we're actually out of time. So if anyone else has a question, it would be great if you can talk to Steve outside. So,
Well, if ever be a good one, there's only one.
Yeah, I do have a question, but is it working? I also want to clarify a point about the Belmont Dam, since that was part of my talk yesterday. And why I want to correct that information, I also want to reinforce your point, right? The indigenous people are resistant. They have declared that they're going to go to war, and that's been going on for the last 3 decades. First time the government tried to have a hearing with them, they just took a knife during the hearing, and like this Indian woman just beat the knife on the guy's face. About 10 years ago, they tried to do it again, so they let them talk, so they, like, tens of Indians started circling around him, so that was their response, right? So they cut his clothes off, cut his arms, and set his clothes on fire. And I'll go home and tell your president what we think. But the dam is not stopped now. There was the resistance that you mentioned, but it is fully working. So sometimes there's a court decision, there's a note on the New York Times that they don't follow up the news. It was, the court order only lasted 3 days. It was taken to a higher court, and they took it down. So it is fully working. I do have a question regarding the term war. The way I understand it, war is, there's resistance when there's war, there's counterattack, right? So what I see now is an attack on animals, not a war on animals. Or maybe what you're saying that what we need is a war on animals, meaning we need to react. But right now, I only see an attack on animals, not a war, since they or those who should be speaking up for them are not resisting, thinking of it as a war.
Yeah, you could use the word attack, you could use the word assault. Again, I don't think this language is strong enough. I think if we use the word war, now, for instance, war, you're talking about violence, weapons, intent to kill, intent to enslave, okay? These things aren't implied in the concept of attack. The concept of attack is too vague. The concept of war is a little more specific. When you break it down and look at what is implied by the discourse of war, it implies more specific things than attack. So attack, struggle, these terms to me are too vague. By the way, I do want to emphasize one other thing about why I don't believe in calling my positions violent or calling animal liberation and militant direct action violent. I have a concept of extensional self-defense. When a being is under attack, we all know that that being has a right to use violence to defend itself. Animals are under attack. If they can't defend themselves, that means, and we are their representatives, as we love to say, I hate this term, the voice of the voiceless. Because animals have a voice. But if we're the voice of the voiceless, then we have to defend them if they can't defend themselves. So whatever means we use, even if it's armed struggle, like in South Africa, that is not violence. Does anybody really believe anti-poaching is violence? Or is this self-defense or extensional self-defense? This is defense. And the planet's under attack. Anything we have to use to save a rainforest in Brazil is defense of the planet. So there is, again, a distinction between aggressive violence and defensive violence. And it's not even violence. Violence is just the wrong term. It's self-defense. Okay, so I guess we'll be outside. I'll be around. Thank you for the question, and thank you very much.